Welcome to the Insight into Industry podcast. Insight into Industry is a student-led online platform that explores the realm of drug development, regulation, and consulting within the pharmaceutical industry. My name is Eric Arrington, and today I am joined by our guest, Steve DeVrieze. He is a graduate of Hope College in Michigan, and he got his MBA from the business school at Duke. Steve is currently the CEO of Heads Together Health, a startup in Chapel Hill that uses innovative AI technology for concussion management, therapy, and solutions. How are you doing today, Steve?
Doing great, Eric, and I'm excited to join your podcast and share some of my experiences that hopefully are relevant for your viewers and listeners.
It's great. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us. Before we get started, can you tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, sure. So as you described as we started, I head up a digital health company called Heads Together Health. We have a software platform for neurologic conditions, starting with concussion management, where our approach is to leverage a platform, a software platform for clinicians, a mobile app for patients to capture data throughout the patient journey, pre-injury, at injury, and throughout their recovery. And we're using that data to inform insights for the clinician. And I'm really excited to be leading this company now with this product and value proposition because as you asked, it's really an integration of many things that I've done over my career. My journey was that after undergrad at Hope, I worked for Accenture for 9 years and did software development and technology implementations in several industries, automotive and financial services. I wasn't passionate about those industries. I did enjoy the software development, but through a personal experience, my dad had multiple myeloma, which is cancer of the bone marrow, in the early 2000s. And healthcare wasn't really using data and didn't have electronic medical records in use in a meaningful way in the early 2000s. And so I was frustrated that in the different care settings that he was in, things were often paper-based, and it felt like some of what I was doing in these other industries we could do in healthcare. So as you said, I went to Duke for business school and did a health sector management concentration as a part of my MBA, which for me was a career pivot to take some time and learn more about healthcare and get a degree and get a focus in healthcare, meet a lot of people who work in different aspects of healthcare. And during business school, I gravitated towards the pharmaceutical, med device, and biotech industries via a internship that I did at the time, a company called Quintiles. And Quintiles at the time was the largest contract research organization and commercialization services company for pharma, biotech, and med device. And I was able to get a really, I thought, interesting first job at a business school working for their corporate strategy team. I did a project for the commercialization business and then ended up joining that business unit where I worked for 10 more years. And my focus was business development and general management of a group covering North America, where our focus was to support pharma, biotech, and med device companies with sales, marketing, and medical affairs resource deployment, as well as some data and analytics to support the commercialization strategy. So that being said, after more than 20 years, I had all my career had been in big companies. I had a blend of software development and healthcare commercialization, but really an interest in doing something entrepreneurial. And through a couple friends of mine, we co-founded Heads Together Health with the product and the approach that I described a little bit earlier. And so my journey, over 25 years, definitely had some significant turns into directions that I maybe hadn't really planned for when I was in undergrad or early in my career. But I have to say, I'm really excited to be where I am. Focused still in healthcare with, really an emphasis on digital health and how we can use information to improve healthcare.
Thank
Long
you.
answer, but it's been a long journey. So hopefully that, answered your question, Eric.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. To go into your current role as CEO, what does your job entail? Like, what is a typical work week like for you? And how does that differ from your experience at IQVIA, a bigger company? And then how does that experience differ from when you were involved in consulting?
Yeah. In my current role, no week is really the same as the next week or the previous week, which is because in an early stage company, we're effectively building something from scratch. And week to week, my foci include engagement with investors to raise money to support the development and commercialization of our product, and engaging with customers, including physicians and athletic trainers and other people who would be users of our technology. And ultimately the goal is to share our technology with them and learn about their clinical challenges and identify if they would be interested in implementing our technology. A fair amount of my work is working with my technology team to, now that we've developed the product, but to enhance it and support it, and work with them on some of the improvements of our solution that we've identified in our product roadmap. I also spend a fair amount of time working with some of our strategic advisors, which is a mix of people with medical, scientific, and various areas of commercialization expertise. And then, as an early stage company, I'm doing all the little things too, paying the bills, running the financials on a recurring basis. And so, I think what's fun is I get to work in every function that exists in a company. And that's a neat experience to, really be able to be involved in all the different facets of the company. The way that it's different from what I did at IQVIA. IQVIA is a huge global multi-billion-dollar company. I had a more distinct functional focus in that I was managing a business that was responsible for deploying and managing sales representatives, medical science liaisons, field market access resources, and clinical nurse educators for pharma and biotech. And then I also spent a fair amount of my time in business development, which was effectively a sales function with pharma, biotech, and med device customers. So a lot more of what I did in that, where I was a vice president of the business unit, was people management and motivating people and working with them to maximize their business development potential. And that's one of the main differences is in an early stage company, there aren't as many people. So I'm spending less time on people management and more time on building the business and establishing funding and customer engagement. And then I think the way that my current position differs from my work at Accenture, that was much more project management based, in that we were implementing different types of software for large companies, where typically our standardized approach was identify business requirements, create product or functional designs from those business requirements, translate that into a technical design, code the software solution, and then test it to make sure it works per the business requirements, and then implement it for the customer. And so that work was much more project management based, managing tasks and timelines and deliverables. So I have to say that each step of my career, or each phase, the work that I've been doing has become, I think, more and more interesting and more strategic. And so, I think that's one of the exciting things about a career journey is your responsibilities can grow and change over time, to keep you interested in what you're doing.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for that insight. How is having worked in those three very different lines of industry, how would you say the work-life balance is different? And was that a factor in you switching between those roles?
I would say that the work-life balance was fairly challenging both at Accenture and IQVIA, which was mostly because in both cases I had jobs where there was a fair amount of travel necessary. At Accenture, I was often on projects with customers who were based in a different place than where I lived, and so for most of my 9 years that I worked there, I was out of town Monday through Thursday and sometimes through Friday. So, that can be a challenge to be away from your home. At the time, I didn't have a family, so it worked okay. But definitely, consulting is typically a lot of hours and a fair amount of travel. Also at IQVIA, for the majority of the years I was there, I was focused in business development, as I mentioned. And so that requires going and meeting with customers. And all of my work was pre-COVID there. So while I think we've transitioned to doing a lot of meetings virtual, um, ultimately, if you're going to sell something to a customer, whether it's a product or a service or consulting, oftentimes meeting face to face makes a really big difference in being able to really understand what the customer needs, build a relationship that's founded on trust, and work towards being able to um, sell them the service that you have. And so I think, work-life balance was manageable, but a lot of travel for both of those. Um, a startup is no walk in the park, though, because again, you're typically starting with less resources than you might ideally have, and so there's lots of work to do across a lot of different functions. Um, but given that I started this position when COVID started, there really wasn't any travel for quite a while. So I've had more nights at home, which has been nice. But ultimately, work-life balance is, I think, always something that I endeavor to find that sweet spot that where you can be really productive for work, but still, do the things that you want to be able to accomplish in your personal life and family.
Yeah. Work-life balance is something that's important to a lot of people, and for me too. So I'll take that into account when in the future when I'm choosing my career path.
Yeah.
What do you think are some advantages of working at a startup, and what skills do you think someone needs in order to do that? And what skills do you think you improved as a result of running a startup at Heads Together Health.
Okay, let me make sure I think it's a 3-layered question. So the first question was, what skills do you need to be successful at a startup? Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then what skills have I developed at a startup? Is that right?
Yeah.
I think at a startup, one of the things that's most important, whether you're a founder or in a leadership position, or if you are earlier in your career and you're joining an early stage company, I think one of the most important assets is to take high initiative and be agile and flexible. And what I mean by that is if you have a position at a large company, in many cases you are working in a specific function and you're getting fairly deep in expertise in that function. And that is something that can be a very substantial asset for all of your career if that's what you're most interested in doing. But in a startup, because there's fewer resources and there's many different functions that are necessary to make the company successful, being able to and being willing to and interested in participating and producing in different areas, I think is really important and will help you be successful if you're in a startup. And then high initiative, which just means you have to be looking for what is the next important thing to do, because again, there's so much to accomplish when you're in an early stage company.
Yeah, for me, when I was working at the startup, it felt like my contributions had a much more significant impact on the
Yeah.
company's success. So I didn't feel like I was just, a small cog in a big machine. I felt like my work was actually shaping the direction of the company, and that made me excited and eager to work every day. So that was
that's right.
a big feel like difference I feel in the startup business. And then also it felt like there was a steeper learning curve, and I learned to do like multiple things rather than just focus on one aspect of the business. I would learn to do various things. So I felt like my growth was accelerated being put into different situations. Yeah, I felt like that was a good part of working at the startup.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely feel like startups are valuable for people who want to grow and maybe want more of a focused, smaller setting. So how do you Heads Together Health works with AI specifically? How do you see the role of AI changing the healthcare industry?
I think it will make the clinical engagement with patients hopefully stronger. And the reason for that is I believe that if the right data can be captured and insights can be leveraged from that data that can provide clinical decision support for the physician, certainly not to replace their own assessment experience and expertise to identify what might be best for the patient, but really to support the clinician's decision process. as we leverage data more and more to provide those insights, it should make, in some cases, the clinical workflow more efficient. And so hopefully clinicians feel like they can spend more time with the patient because this AI is supporting their workflow and the insights are helping them identify and document a treatment plan for patients that will improve the overall clinical journey.
Yeah, I feel like AI is becoming more and more prominent in society, and it's important to utilize it in all aspects of life. And healthcare is just one big step in, utilizing everything that AI can do. So for you, who is interested in entrepreneurship, what advice do you have for someone who aspires to do something similar, who wants to start and or run their own company? Any advice for someone who's interested in that?
Yeah, I would say, definitely identify a problem along with a solution that you're passionate about, because I think that given that there's so much work to get a startup from an idea to being a functioning business with customers and funding and revenue and all of the things that are needed to make a successful business, I think that being passionate about the specific concept that you're working on is important. And then I also think that it's important to, as you're getting started, really spend a lot of time with other unbiased experts, key opinion leaders. Use those types of stakeholders. And when I say unbiased, I mean, maybe you have a person or two who's a part of your team who are domain experts, or maybe you're the domain expert. And ultimately, you and your team are biased in that you've come up with this concept. So you like the idea probably more than anyone else might, right? So make sure to really spend a lot of time with all those different stakeholders to validate the problem you're trying to solve and to validate the approach of the solution that you're using to solve that problem. I think if you spend that upfront time with those stakeholders, it will have invaluable benefits to the success of your business long term.
Yeah. And going kind of off what you said about the stakeholders and utilizing their input, what do you think is the importance of networking, and how have you gotten better? What practices have you done that have improved your networking skills?
I think the benefits of networking are there's many facets of it. I think if you can build a large network, those can be people who are supporting you strategically. They could potentially be your customers. They can be your references to help you, whether it be with investors or customers or partners, suppliers, all the different, types of stakeholders that you work with. So networking is really important, and it can help you accelerate your progress in a number of areas. I would say, though, that in the earliest phases of a startup, you also have to balance that with making sure that you're investing enough of your time and resources on your product, your service, your solution, your own team, to make sure that you can get your your company and your product or service in a place where it's primed for success. So you can't overdo it on networking as well. Just as a caveat, Eric. I think the personal part of it that you asked about. I think I am finding different channels to network because my experience with Heads Together Health is that I'm, focused in neurologic conditions and initially concussion. And coming into it, I wasn't personally someone that had relationships with people who were involved in concussion as much as one of my co-founders. So one of the ways I've improved is identifying, different channels to network and build our company network.
Thank you. Before we go, do you have any more advice for our listeners or viewers that you'd like to share?
I think I guess I will provide just some high level advice for the listeners, Eric, that isn't only or specifically related to entrepreneurship. I would just challenge your listeners to identify where they feel like they see their skills and expertise really adding the most value for organizations, and identifying how that fits with what they're most passionate about, and then really working towards the combination of education and studies and things that can help you launch or accelerate your progress towards getting into a job that fits with your skills and experience and the assets you have, that along with what you're passionate about. And so if that's accounting in a big company, and that's great. If it happens to be that you want to do something entrepreneurial, I think some of those same things that I just described would be helpful for listeners.
Great, thank you. I know you're really busy. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me and the viewers. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Eric, thank you for having me. I think it's exciting that you're developing and hosting this podcast. So I appreciate you asking me to join, and I look forward to future podcasts with you.
Thank you.